In video segment 5 of the Breckenridge design project, I'm going to place the upper windows, the corner boards and trim, place the exterior elevations, and also a story pole dimension. A little bit larger view of what we'd like to accomplish. The story pole dimensions off to the far right. Some of the call-out text above the design. Notice that I have some of the shadows on, and this is the way it will look in the construction drawing with a front side view, and then I also have the black and white view as a smaller scale, and then the back side very similar to that. Let me jump into the program and let's take a look at how to accomplish these things. To place the windows, I'm going to start on the far right hand side with the windows that are matching the slope of the roof. Then I'll move to the center of the structure and place the arced windows. Inside of the program, under the 3D menu, I'm going to place our automatic exterior elevations using all elevations. Once those are placed, I'm going to select the camera, double click on it, open it up, and then I'm just going to zoom in to the area that I want to place. Choose the window tool, click and place the window, and this is coming in with the defaults that were from the second floor. That's a double hopper window. So let's go ahead and make our modifications here. On the window type, I'm going to change that back to fixed glass. Then on the shape panel, there's an option here to match the roof. Select that. That's going to follow the same 2 1/12 slope. And then for the dimensions, let's just go ahead and put in a value of 16 1/4. And then I'm going to set my floor to bottom. Let's go ahead and set that. This is respective to the floor. This is going into the attic, so I'm putting in a negative value that will pull it. You can also change that and use an absolute number if you know the exact number. Select OK, and then using the center tool, I'm going to use that and center that over the window below it. I'm going to create another copy of that using my multiple copy command, and I'm going to set that to be 44 inches. Pull over a copy of that window, and from here you can just simply drag that up to the various height that you need. And to be a little more precise, I'm going to go ahead and open that up. I'll adjust that down here just a little bit, and then it looks like it reset my floor to bottom. Select OK, and then that window should be pretty well positioned. Create one more copy of that. We'll repeat the same process off to the other side. And again, it's a little bit of busy work, so let's just go back through and make the same settings. I'll enter in a height, and again reset my floor to bottom. The same value as the other window. Select OK, and then one more copy, and we'll just use the multiple copy tool actually, and we'll slide that over, and again pull that up in this view, or you can open it up and make the modifications. So increase the height here, and then reset the bottom, and that should be about it. Same as the other windows. Select OK, and now those windows are in place. Next window is going to be up in the center area, and let's go ahead and just place our larger windows to begin with. And this window, we want that again to be a fixed window, so we'll change that fixed, and then we'll set the dimensions at 60 by 80 and change the floor to bottom here to 75 1/8. Again, using the center tool, center on the window below. Actually, those windows are blocked, so let me unblock those. And again, using the center tool, we'll just click on that window and get that centered. It's a 60-inch window, so using the multiple copy, I'm going to set those to just simply copy it to 62 inches, and then just drag a set of those over. Those should all be centered above the windows below that. Now for the windows in the very upper section that have the arch. I'm going to just simply click and place the window to begin with. And as we open it up, again changing it to a fixed glass. This time on the arch tab, I'm going to choose a double arch and then set the height and the radius. Now the radius is going to be a function of what the roof is, and what I've done here is done some approximations using a line tool and arcing it and matching it to the roof, and I actually have that information already that I've copied in here. And then I'm just going to simply set the height of that arc right in here. So I'm going to go ahead and set that to be 14. And finally I'm going to choose it to be a left arch. And it almost looks like it's following the roof, but there is a slight curvature to that window. And let's see if there's any final things. On the height of the window, I'm going to set that to be 21 5/8. So if I have all of these things set correctly and the width at 60 inches, it should be in a good position as soon as we finalize the floor to bottom. Now I have been using floor to bottom from the floor. You can choose finished floor, or in this case absolute. This room is open all the way down below to the main entryway. So if it's absolute dimension, I can come in and put in a value of 300 inches and a half. Select OK and make that change. Now I'm going to create 2 more copies of that window, and we'll just use the multiple copy tool. It's a 60-inch window, same as we copied below. So now all I have to do is simply pull that up, and let's also make the same edits to this window. For each of these windows, the arch is going to be slightly different. In this case, I'm going to put in 10 for this one. Use the same radius, left arch, and then I'll change the height of this window to 32 1/8. And I need to adjust the floor to bottom at the same number we used before, 300 1/2 inch. Select OK, and that should position that window. And then finally the same type of edit on this one. Again, down here on the arch, change this value, in this case a value of 6, and then on the height information put in 38 1/2, and then I'll need to reset the floor to bottom. Again, we've been using 300 1/2 inch absolute, and select OK. So all of those windows are in place. On the back side, we need to make the same windows, and all I'm going to do is do the copy and reflect about to make that happen. Back in the floor plan, I'm going to select the 3 windows are on the front, use the copy and reflect about, move that around the center of the room. Now there's actually, if you go back into the elevation view, there's actually 2 sets of windows on that perceived second floor. And if I needed to get to this second window back in the floor plan, if you select this window and press the open key, it's the 60 by 80 window. And if I press the tab key, you don't see anything happen, but now when I press the open button, the height is 32 inches. And you may find that sometimes copying the window from an elevation or perspective view is easier to get that, since those windows reside on the same floor in basically the same space in 2D. Copied those windows onto the back side, and the windows are in the attic from the upper floor. And in the attic there isn't room definition to do a copy and reflect about, as we did below, where when you click on the room you get room definition and you can copy around that room. So what I have done is on this floor above, again you can press F9 and see the floor below, but I have drawn a couple of lines, CAD lines, and I put them on my guidelines layer. So they are center points. And now when I choose these windows, let me just draw a marquee around those 3 windows, use the copy and reflect about the line, and then we'll do the exact same operation for the other 4 windows. Copy and reflect about the line, and then take a 3D full overview and rotate around. And now you can see that we have placed those windows from the work on the other side, saving ourselves a little bit of time. I'm going to skip ahead. I'm going to place the other windows in above the kitchen on the front and the side, and doing the exact same operation. I've placed all of the remaining windows, and the windows that are actually above the kitchen in this area right here were somewhat difficult to place, and I wanted to show you a couple of little tricks in placing those windows. Back in the floor plan view on the main floor, the kitchen room is indicated right here, and this dashed line represents a room divider between the living and kitchen area. On the second story, you can see that this wall is aligned with that room divider, and the pantry area and this wall that comes in from the side actually intersect the wall in the 2D view, but it doesn't intersected in the 3D view. If I split my screen here, you can kind of see what I'm talking about. So this wall right here is being intersected in the 2D view from the attic wall. And what I've had to do, let me just remove these 2 windows, that 3 windows that are intersecting these 2 windows, and then the window below here that's intersecting the wall. And so in 2D, what I've done is temporarily pull this attic wall back. And if you've ever pulled an attic wall back, that's an attic wall, And you notice that it doesn't ever disappear. And there's actually a default setting. Attic walls are automatically generated. And so under your default settings, under the generic wall, general wall, there is automatic walls, and I'm going to remove the checkbox, probably just temporarily, automatically rebuild those attic walls. Select OK, and now I can simply pull that attic wall back. I'm just going to press delete in that case, and remove that attic wall, and then come over here and pull this attic wall back, and then do the same thing on the other side. And the program doesn't like where a wall intersects another wall and being able to place windows. Now that that intersection is removed, I can just use my multiple copy tool and use it at 64 inches and create 2 copies of that window. And those windows can now be placed. Otherwise, you can't place the window right where you want it. So now I'll intersect that attic wall back into the wall below. Let me just toggle on my glasshouse view. It might be easier for you to see what's going on here. Yeah, okay. A little bit difficult to see, but you can see the attic wall right in this area is intersecting it much further below in the 3D space. And I'll just do the same thing on the other side. Multiple copy, slide that down the 64 inches, pull it into place, reconnect the attic wall, and then I can turn my default back on and set that to automatically regenerate the attic walls. Let's toggle our camera back, and now you can see that those windows are now easily placed. If I have to move them around for whatever reason when I finalize dimensions, again, I'd have to remove that connection of the attic wall into the other wall in the 2D space. Next in the segment is to place some of our trim and the corner boards. You'll notice in the rendering and the elevation view, I've got a trim board that's going to go between the garage and the upper level patio kitchen area. And then I've used a very thick trim board on each of the corners. Let's take a look at the process of adding those. In the program, I have my split screen displayed, and on the left hand side I'm on the foundation level where the garage is, and I'm going to just click near the outside of that wall, press the tab key, and I get a selection that goes all the way around the structure. Once that's selected, that's actually considered the exterior room, if you notice, the very lower left hand corner of your screen. Once that's selected, I'm going to choose the option to make a room polyline, and that's going to create an outline. Let me maximize that view. It's going to create an outline that goes all the way around the design, and I'm going to use that to create that belly band. And to begin with, I'm just going to reshape this. Notice my snaps come into play, and a little bit bigger than I need because I don't want it to go all the way around the design. So I'm just going to pull this into place until we get rid of those extra diamonds. Pull this up. And once I've got the basic shape that I'm after, which is just around that garage portion, I'm now going to convert that into a molding using the convert polyline, convert to a molding polyline, and then I will go ahead and assign the moldings and the dimensions. Now I'll assign the molding inside of our catalog. I'm going to choose a basic profile molding that's rectangular, and then we'll set the dimensions of that. Let's try 19 3/8 by 3 inches. And then I'm going to remove this extrude inside because I want it to go on the outside. And I think the final thing is the relative height of the item. So let's go ahead and type in -25.5, and that will pull that down back into the 3D view here. And now I'll change the default material using the material eyedropper, come off the door, and apply it onto that belly band molding. Next is to create a trim piece on the corner here, and you'll find that option under the Build Trim and Corner Boards. And my default corner board here is a little bit thicker. I'm just going to pull this up because I'm going to have a reflecting pond, and we'll just pull that up. And if you look at my default settings for my corner board, it's 24 by 2 inches. And I'll just make my way and place the rest of these corner boards on the design. Now the rest of the corner boards are placed. Some cases I want a decorative corner board. It's actually not on the corner. An example of this is in the front of the kitchen area. To generate that corner board, I'm going to take a elevation view from that floor using my elevation camera and just shoot an elevation through that. And I'm going to use the polyline solid. We'll just zoom in here. And I'm going to use the polyline solid to generate that corner board. And I'm just going to come in here and draw that out. And we'll just pull it up to the top of the structure. You use the material eyedropper, apply it on, and create the same material. And then for the thickness, I've been using a 2-inch thickness on that. And back over to the camera view, we've created that custom corner board. And what I've created for the layer system is, instead of putting that on a default CAD layer, I've created a corner. Let's just type that in, called Corner Boards Custom, and I'll just assign that to that layer, and that way it's easy to turn that layer on and off depending on what I'm doing. Now for the final segment of the video, let's take a look at the pull story process in creating those dimensions that you see off to the right. Go back in and place those. At the beginning of the video segment, we placed the automatic exterior elevation cameras, and I'm going to open up the front elevation camera. And new to X8 and beyond is a new option for the auto story pole dimensions. And before I click that and place the story pole dimensions, let's take a look at how we want to set up our defaults for that. Underneath the dimension defaults, there is a setting for those. Let me open that up. And here's where you can control if it's on the left, right, both, top, bottom, and then between elevation markers if you want that to be displayed in an inner dimension. I'm going to remove that inner dimension off. As it is now, I have quite a few segments of foundation down here, and it's probably going to pick up several, and then we'll just do some cleanup. So I'm going to place those dimensions, and you can see where it's placed some of these elements in here. And to clean these up, just like the other dimensions, you can simply come in here and pull these diamonds off. It's a fairly complex design with this front elevation with all the different segments on here. And once I have this cleaned up, you can see the segments. You can drag these on here. Sometimes you can pick up different components if you want to pick up a ceiling or a window. In this case, I'm going to zoom in here, and let me just turn my crosshairs on briefly so I can draw a line that will show the top of our roof. So for the top of the roof segment, I'm just going to draw a line temporarily in here, and then drag that segment out onto that line. And then let's go ahead, that's extension number 6. Open up the dimension. On the extension segments, extension number 6, let me give it a, what's the other one say? Highest ridge. I'm just going to call this top of ridge 2. And then for number 7, I'm going to change that, and we'll just call that top of ridge 3. And select OK. And now I can click on that extension itself, and then I'll just pull that back so that it's approximately in line with the one above. So you can easily add additional extensions and markers for your dimensions. Let me pull this one off and customize it as you need to. And it's a great way to create your story pole dimensions without doing this all manually. And again, that's a new feature to version 8 and newer. One final segment for the elevation. I'm going to add a text call out. I'm going to use the text leader line and simply come in, drag out a line over here, give it some text, type that in, and you'll notice that on my original I've made my lines arcs, and if you want to do that in this case, simply click on these segments, and all I did here was convert that to an arc, and I'll convert this segment over here to an arc. And once you have that, then you can come in here, and I'll just usually hold the control key down, and then you can kind of make these segments go as you would like to, and then we'll just pull that cedar fascia up, and that's kind of how I did that to create the final view. That wraps up this video segment. In the next series, we're going to explore the different framing components for the walls, floor structure, and roof structure.